Hey guys, in this video we're going to create these two crypto UI designs in Figma. Now this is actually a preview of in my Figma course in which I'm going to teach you all about Figma from scratch. So without further ado, let's jump into the video. Alright, so let's get started and let's create this iOS app. So the very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to click on iPhone 11 Pro Max under the frames and we're going to add some text elements right over here. So I'm going to use the T button in order to add the very first element, which is going to be Bitcoin. And let's bring this one over here and let's change the font to Lato. So after that we're going to essentially bring it over here, and this is going to serve us as the top level menu. And so at this point let's just create two lines, and we're going to change the color of these two lines in order to make them a little bit more subtle. All right, that will do. Now let's zoom in, and we're going to use the oval tool in order to make this dot right here. We're going to change the color to something which is going to be around a orangish, maybe even yellow. Yeah, let's just keep it yellow. And next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up Nuclear app and search for an arrow. Now we could create this one manually, but just for the sake of this tutorial I'm going to use something around these lines. Let's drop it in, and let's go ahead and resize this in order to make it into a better size. Alright, let's change also the color. Let's make it just a little bit darker. And I think we are set. Actually, let's make it even more dark with a tint of blue. All right, so far so good. And one thing that we want to do as well in this tutorial is we're going to use a layout grid, which is going to be comprised of a few columns, say 4 columns, and some margin in order to have a reference structure for this composition right here. Also going to change the color in order to make it more light, and there we go. All right, so far so good. We're going to add some more details about this. This is going to be finance summary. Let's bring this one over here like this. Let's make it bigger. And let's use some text right here. And that will do for now. All right. Let's make it a little bit more bold, and I think we're good to go. All right, so that's going to be the very first thing. Here we're going to write BTC, and we're also going to add a icon. So this one's going to be Bitcoin. And we're going to search around for some icons of Bitcoin. Okay, I think we got the one that we wanted, and going to bring it to the far left. And that will do for the time being. All right, so far so good. I'm going to copy this color right here. Make it a little bit more light, and I'm going to copy it again below. Let's add some random values. All right, so far so good. Going to add some color, and we're also going to make this a different value. Let's say minus 5.3%. Well, and we're going to use a small arrow. See if we can find something here. I think it's called the chevron. Can't find anything. So let's go one step back, and here we go. So we're just going to grab it from this icon. So let's just remove this part right here, unframe it, and we're going to bring this guy on the left, and we're going to change the color of it to something around maybe these lines. Yep, that will do. All right, so far so good. Maybe let's try and make this one medium instead of regular. And I think we're going towards the right direction here. Let's bring this one here as well. And yep, so far so good. Now the very next thing that we're gonna do is we're going to create a few buttons which are going to essentially tell us if we can buy, sell, and trade. So let's make these guys rounded, and let's duplicate them one time, and the second time. So the first one's going to be sell, the second one is going to be buy, and the third one is going to be trade. Center them. And let's go ahead and make these guys medium. And so far so good. Actually, let's make this one this color. We're just going to sample the colors that we essentially see here in order to make them consistent and just looking good overall. All right, so far so good. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to change the color also of this trade, and I'm going to make it a little bit lighter as well, just to maintain the consistency. And yep, there we go. So far so good. Now another thing that we're gonna do is we're going to essentially move this guy down, and next thing from then is we're going to create the actual graph. So this one's going to be summary, and we're going to change the color of this guy right here. We're also going to add two tags over here. This one's going to be 2021. Let's bring this guy over to the bottom. We're going to have another one with the following year essentially. So let's round this one up completely, and let's just make this completely bold. We're also going to have the second one, which is going to be the following year, so 2022. But we're going to change the color in order to make it clear that it's going to be a different year, which is still selectable, if that's even the term. But yeah, guys, you know what I mean. So let's go ahead over here. Let's increase this value. And let's make this one bold as well. Or maybe just medium. Yep, that will do. All right, so far so good. And one thing I want to do just to get more into the theme is maybe I want to change the background. Let's give it a shot if I could see something. Yeah, let's just make it a little bit lighter. All right, so far so good. So the very next thing that we're gonna do is we're going to create a few divider lines so that we can essentially leverage this section. We're going to add a few gaps. So that's going to be a little bit too small. Let's try 6 and 4. Yep, that's better. All right. Cool. So far, so good. That's going to be 2.5K. All right. So far, so good. Let's bring this one up. And I think we're heading towards a good direction with this. So let's duplicate it a few times, and we're going to sort out distances between one thing and the other. 2K, 1.5, 1K. This one's going to be 0, 0.5, and 0. All right, I think we got the basic down, and just going to move it a little bit up and distribute the vertical spacing. All right, so far so good. Maybe I'm going to change this one to just have a stroke. So I'm not really feeling the feel. So all right, let's go ahead here and let's change. Let's start creating the actual graph. And I'm just going to make up these values. So the graph sometimes goes up, sometimes goes down, sometimes it's flat. So we kind of want to get a general feeling for it, but there isn't like really a science to the graphs. So yeah, just keep that in mind as you're proceeding with this. And yeah, just going to end it like that. All right, so far so good. Now let's add one line, and we're going to go ahead and create an actual containing element which is going to leverage pretty much the same elements right here. right. And let's continue with the last one. All right, so far so good. Perfect. So I'm going to add a fill. Now what we just did is going to make us more sense in just a second. So we're going to create a linear gradient from the top, and we're going to select the same color right here. So as you can see, we just created this this gradient, and yeah, so far so good. I'm going to actually make it lighter, and then going to turn down the value just a notch, and there we go. Cool. So far so good. Let's change also the color right here in order to reflect these changes which we just made. And now we're going to end up by creating a section below with the menu icons. So I'm simply going to select here. So we're going to go with the outline icons, and I'm going to select a few icons from the Nucleo library, and let's go ahead here and let's add this one here, and also let's go with this one is good. Do we want a icon of a house for the homepage? All right. So far, so good. I'm going to change this one up. Okay, so the very next thing that we're gonna do is we're just simply going to bring all of these icons next to each other, and we're going to try and figure out what would make sense when it comes to their sizes. And we're also going to adjust the stroke values in order to be sure that those are all on point. Okay, perfect. This one's going to be 2. This one's going to be 2. We're simply going to basically be sure that the stroke values are the same, except for these guys here. I want them to be just a little bit smaller. And yep, so far so good. Going to keep the house the beginning, and let's just make these ones centered with the columns. Cool. All right. I think we're in good shape when it comes to these icons, and I'm going to change the color right here, and let's add a different color for the house icon. Just going to have this blue color. And we're also going to add a line below as a way to reinforce the association between this color and the icon. All right, cool. I think we're in a good position right now. Now what I would like to have is the icons on the top for the various elements. Actually wondering if just going ahead and grabbing those or leaving it as it is. Maybe let's just bring this one up or down a little bit. And what I'm gonna do is I'm essentially going to add a hamburger icon right there. And it's going to be one of the minimal ones. Maybe let's try to remove this element. I'm not really feeling it. So maybe let's add let's see if we add some text. Yeah, maybe that'll work. I'm going to add a user icon and let's see if we can find one which is cool. So many, but I'm trying to go with the minimal look right here. So something around these lines could actually work pretty well. All right. So far, so good. Cool, cool. All right, I think we're in a good position with this one. Just going to try and tweak the color values of these guys just a little bit to make them just a little bit less visible. Also going to tweak the color on this one right here, so it's a little bit too much for my taste. And maybe also these greens, just a little bit too pushed. Kind of want to go with a subtle effect, so it's going to be better. All right, so far so good. Now let's go ahead and let's create the dark version of this green. So it's going to be interesting, and we're probably going to, okay, that's something we're gonna do in the next stage. But let's go ahead and let's select all of the text elements. Let's make these guys white, as well as this guy and this guy. And we're going to change the color in just a second. All right, so far so good. Let's change this color, this one as well. Yep. In order to make them more clear, I'm going to make them bold in these versions, and a bit lighter as well, so they're more legible with this different contrast. Let's change also the color of these icons. And yeah, so far so good. Now let's go ahead and let's make this even darker. And yeah, I think this one is starting to look pretty interesting. Let's bring down the color of these other elements. Let's make it 25%. And also these lines right here, let's make them to 30%. And yeah, overall I think this is starting to look interesting. We also have to adjust this one. And what else is missing? Also these guys right here. And there we go. Okay, I'm trying this version since I thought it has some potential, but we're just going to leave it at these two for now. So cool. Hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next one.